All right. What's going on, everybody? What's up? This your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect right here on the StreamYard. So, if you are watching from Facebook, go ahead and share this video. If you're watching from YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. So today we're going to be dealing with the history about Dr. J.A. Rodgers, who was a historian, so an African American historian, and we're going to just look at his outline, his history, and his life and his legacy. All right. And some of the books that he wrote. And of course, I'm going to present some article and information as well. All right. So let's get into it. Okay. So right here, this is J.A. Rodgers. So who was Mr. J.A. Rodgers? Well, let's go ahead and look at his biography. All right, so right here, J.A. Rodgers, also known as Joe Augustus Rodgers. He was born on September 6, 1880, and he died March 26, 1966. He was a Jamaican American author, journalist, and historian who contributed to the history of Africa and the African in the diaspora. After settling in the United States in 1906, he lived in Chicago and then New York City. He became interested in the history of African Americans in the United States. His research spanned the academic field of history, sociology, and anthropology. He challenged prevailing ideas about scientific racism and the social construction of race, demonstrated the connection between civilization and trace achievements of ethnic Africans, including some with mixed European ancestry. He was one of the earliest popularizers of African American history in the 1920s or in the 20th century. So, just like Carl G. Woodson, right? Just like many others, he was another one that was very prominent in the African diaspora history. And he also was around the same time when Carl G. Woodson came out. So both of them were historians in their own rights. And both of them were very passionate about studying African American history and African history. So let's continue. Oh, yeah. Let's continue. Let's go down here to his biography real fast. It says that he was born in the Grill, Jamaica. He was one of 11 children. He was the son of mixed race parents who were ministers and school teachers. His parents could afford to give Rodgers and his 10 siblings only a rudimentary education, but stressed the importance of learning. Rodgers claimed to have had a good basic education. Okay. So he was there during the Harlem Renaissance, a flowering of African American artistic and intellectual life in numerous fields. He became a close personal friend of Herbert Harrison, an intellectual and activist based in Harlem. While living in Chicago in the 1920s, Rodgers worked as a Pullman porter and as a reporter for the Chicago Enterprise. His job of Pullman porter allowed him to travel and observe a wide range of people. Through this travel, he was able to feed his appetite for knowledge by using various libraries in the cities which he visited. He self-published the results of his research in several books. Now, going down here, where it says From Superman to Man. Rodgers' first book, From Superman to Man, self-published in 1917, attacked the notion of African inferiority. From Superman to Man is polemic against the ignorance that fuels racism. The central plot revolves around a debate between a Pullman porter and a white racist Southern politician. Rodgers used this debate to air many of his personal philosophies and to debunk stereotypes about Black people and white racial superiority. The porter's arguments and theories are pulled from a plethora of sources, classical and contemporary, and run the gamut from history and anthropology to biology. Rodgers continued to develop ideas that he first expressed from Superman to man. He addressed issues such as the lack of scientific support for the idea of race, the lack of black history told from a black person's perspective, and the fact of intermarriage and unions among peoples throughout history. All right. The book reveals Rodgers' position on Christianity when the second main character, the senator, asks, "Then you do not advocate Christianity for the Negro?" The main character, Dixon, then answered, "The real Christianity, yes. The usual Christianity of the white Gentiles with its egotism and self-interest, no." All right. So the first book that he came out with was called From Superman to Man. All right, now in this article, it states that he self-published a lot of his book. That means he didn't go through no publication company. He had his own publishing going on. Okay, so that's what he was doing. All right, so let's see. Let's continue. So I'm gonna read a little bit right here. It says, "But object the senator strenuously, Christianity has done a great deal for the Negro. Look what a solace it was to him in slavery." Solace, solace, did you say? To enslave a man, then dope him to make him content. Do you call that a solace? Would you call a chloroform burglar, for instance, a solace? No, that's the work of an art devil, and a cowardly arch devil at that. The honest fact is that the greatest hindrance to the progress of the Negro is that the same dope that was shot into him during slavery. Many Negro sects, perhaps the majority, never stop to think what they are doing. They have accepted the white man's religion pretty much in the same manner as if they had remained in Africa. They would have worn his old tin cans as a charm. As I sometimes watch these people howling and hula ballooning, I cannot but think that any other process, religious or otherwise, would have served just as well as a vehicle for the release of their emotion, and that, so far as Jesus is concerned, any other rose by that name would smell as sweet to them. The same holds true to the poor white mounters of Kentucky and Tennessee, who are also violently religious and immoral. The slogan of the Negro devotee is, "Take the world, but give me Jesus," and the white man strikes an eager bargain with him. The religious manifestation of the Negro as a group needs to be tempered with hygiene in the same manner that those of the white needs the spirit of Christ. Okay. So that's just a little brief information of what the character and the story was about. So actually, J.A. Rodgers, right, he put his own ideas and his own thoughts and beliefs on religion in the form of fictitious characters. So basically, where he was standing on the concept when it came down to Christianity, like many black radicals during that time period, they felt that the Christianity they knew of that was practiced here in America was of the white man's religion, but it was the Christianity of black people, or how black people practice it. So, and then you still have some churches today, black church, that rather get into the ideology of Pan-Africanism mixed with Christianity. So the way they identify Jesus not looked at as a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes or straight hair, but Jesus is looked more as a black man, or as a representation of the person themselves, the individual. So our people have a way of interpreting the Bible. Our people have a way of bringing about spirituality through the concept of what we call syncretism. Syncretism is basically the combination of philosophies and cultures that are mixed in together. So what we have done in this country, we have taken some of the culture or some of the religious ideology that has been given to us and mix it with some African principles to it. That's what we have done. So now let's go on down to his career. All right, so it says in the 1920s, Rodgers worked as a journalist on the Pittsburgh Courier and the Chicago Enterprise. He was a sub-editor of Marcus Garvey's short-lived daily Negro Times. As a newspaper correspondent, Rodgers covered such events as the coronation of Emperor Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia for the New York Amsterdam News. He wrote for a variety of others Black newspapers and journals: Crisis, American Mercury, The Messenger magazine, The Negro World, and Survey Graphic. One of his interviews was with Marcus Garvey in prison. That was in November of 1926. Rodgers served as one of the few Black U.S. correspondents during World War II. Rodgers also contributed to a syndicated newspaper cartoon feature entitled Your History, patterned after the look of Robert Ripley's popular Believe It or Not cartoons. Multiple vignettes in each cartoon episodes recounted short items about African Americans from Rodgers' research. The features began in the Pittsburgh Courier in November of 1934 with art by George L. Lee. In 1940, the art chores were handed over to Samuel Malley, who stayed with the feature through the rest of its run. In 1962, the title was changed to Facts About the Negro. The feature outlived its author and continued appearing regularly until 1971, presumably in the reprints. At the end of the run, two collections were published: Your History 1940 and Facts About the Negro circa 1960. All right, and it says that he died in New York City, and he was survived by his wife, Helga M. Rodgers. Okay, so it goes down and talk about the list of the other works that he has done. So right here it says Rodgers' work was concerned with the great Black man theory of history. This theory presents history, specifically Black history, as a mirror of achievements by prominent Black people. He devoted a significant amount of his professional life to unearthing facts about people of African ancestry, intending these findings to be a refutation of contemporary racist belief about the inferiority of Blacks. Books such as 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro, Sex and Race, World's Great Men of Color describe remarkable Black people throughout the ages and cite significant achievements of Black people. He asserted that several historical features previously classified or assumed to be white European, included Esau, Cleopatra, Hannibal, were Black. This was decades before research by Afrocentric historians, overwhelmingly rejected by specialist consensus, tried to support some of his works. All right, and now let's see where we go down and say philosophy and viewpoint real fast. So it says Rodgers was a meticulous researcher, astute scholar, and concise writer. He traveled tirelessly on his quest for knowledge, which often took him directly to the source. While traveling in Europe, he frequented libraries, museums, and castles, finding sources that help him document African ancestry and history. He challenged the biased view of Eurocentric historians and anthropologists. Rodgers gathered what he called the brand of history. The brand of history was the uncollected, unexamined history of the world, and his interest was the history of Black people. Rodgers intended that the neglected part of the history would become part of the mainstream body of Western history. He saw Black inclusion in white historical discourses as helping to bridge racial divides. His scholarship was meant to shed light on hetero unexamined areas of Africana history, as well as combat the stereotypes of inferiority that were attributed to black people. All right. So J.A. Rodgers was on the ongoing quest of finding out information about African American history, or undocumented information at that. So there'll be people today that make the argument that was J.A. Rodgers was wrong. There was a lot of misinformation. There was a lot of errors in his work, and that may be true. But you gotta look at the time period. They did not have the advanced technology like they do today. So now in technology, you can go and find out more information, and you can be able to go and debunk some sources. Back then, he couldn't do as much. You didn't have that much advancement. He had the encyclopedia. He had to go to the libraries. He had to look up books and stuff like that. So at the time, he was dealing with the Eurocentric ideology about black folks and how they view black people. So that's what he was combating against. That's why you have the concept of Afrocentricity, because Afrocentricity is a rebuttal against Eurocentricity, and it's our way of being able to tell our own stories in our own light, right? And based off of historical information as well. But we got to also realize that everything that was written wasn't always factual. It was just the idea. You know what I'm saying? So when he was saying stuff about Hannibal being black or whatnot, there's no evidence that Hannibal was black. Okay? But at that time period, that was J.A. Rodgers combating against the Eurocentric philosophy. So he did a numerous amount of research. He did a lot of research. So yeah, you can't. So let's just say that he had some good information. He had some scholarly sources, but there were some things that he was wrong about as well. And that's okay, because a lot of our great historians, they were wrong about some of the things that they had put out. It's okay. It happens. All right. So, oh, excuse me. All right. So now we're going to go down here. We're going to skip down a little bit. Rodgers asserted that the color of skin did not determine intellectual geniuses, that African had contributed more to the world than was previously acknowledged. He publicized the great black civilization that had flourished in Africa during antiquity. He devoted his scholarship to vindicating a place for African people within Western history. According to Rodgers, many ancient African civilizations had been primal motors of Western civilization and culture. With these assertions, Rodgers was also highlighting the absurdity of racial division. His beliefs in one race humanity precluded the idea of several different ethnic races. In this, he was a humanist. He used history as a tool to bolster his ideas about humanism, and his scholarship to prove his underlying humanistic thesis that people were one large family without racial barriers. Okay, so Rodgers was self-financed, self-educated, and self-published. Some critics have focused on his lack of a formal education as a hindrance to producing scholarly work. Others suggested the fact that he was self-taught, liberating him from many academic and methodological restrictions. As an autodidact, Rodgers followed his research into various disciplines that more formally educated scholars may have been loath to attempt. His works are complete with detailed references. That he documented his work to encourage scrutiny of his facts was a testament to his due diligent work ethic, commitment to the world's history and culture. All right. Then we're gonna go down what says legacy and honors. He was honored his professional association, the Paris Society of Anthropology, the American Geographical Society, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and the Academy of Political Science. Yes. So J.A. Rodgers was also into science. He also felt that science was very valuable and important. So now, for those who may sit around here and don't want to get into science for whatever reason, those who don't believe in biology and all this other stuff, because y'all think that this is the white man's information and only the white man studies science and deal with that kind of stuff like that. J.A. Rodgers was into science. Okay? He was a part of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Now, what do you have to say about that? So we got to get out of there. We got to get out of that mentality that only certain group of people can study science and not everybody else. See, the thing that's ironic is we claim that people are taking our science and taking our information, but we don't want to go study the information that has been taken from us. Now, how ironic is that? How ironic is that? But anyways, let's look at the works. Okay, so here are the works that he has done. I'm not going to read all of them. So one is From Superman to Man, which was written in 1917. Okay, as nature leads an informal discussion of the reason why Negro and Caucasian are missing in spite of opposition. All right, that was done in 1919. Okay, and The Approaching Storm and Bow It May Be Averted, an open letter to Congress. Okay, and then he got the one called Music and Poetry, which was written in 1921, Volume 1. Then The Negro in Europe, 1930, The Negro in European History, Opportunity, Volume 8, number 6. Okay. The Greatest Men of African Descent, which was under his publication in 1931. The Americans in Ethiopia, he went under the pseudonym Gerard Robinson in American Mercury, 1933. The 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof, a shortcut to World History of Negroes, J.A. Rodgers, that was 1934. That's when he wrote the book. The World Greatest Men and Women of African Descent, J.A. Rodgers, 1935. All right, so Nature Knows No Color Line. All right, research into Negro ancestry in the white race. And that was written in 1952 by him as well. And then down here, you can also find out some information, some references at the bottom if you want to look up more. Okay. Okay. So the point is, J.A. Rodgers, he took his time and did his diligent research. He did all that he could, okay, with the limited information that he had. That's all he did. And you can still find some of his books at local bookstores, especially if you are at a black bookstore, right? You can find some of his books, like the one that I mentioned, The World's Great Men of Color, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And also he got the one about the sex and race, Negro Caucasian missing in all age and all land. And he got the Part 2, Volume 2 and Volume 3. You can find that in these local bookstores, wherever, or you can either go on Amazon and look it up. So I'm surprised they not out of print. Because like any other authors who have wrote a lot of books, a lot of their stuff become out of print, but his books are still around. So you can find some of his information. Let me look over here. Okay, Jerome. I'm going to say this respectfully, okay? If you were listening closely, All right? Because, see, I hate when people try to insinuate something that I did not say. I hate when people try to twist my word up. Yes, he was wrong about certain information. Nowhere I did not state that he was not a great historian. I did not say that. I say he did all that he could with the information that he had available to him. Okay? So with that being the case, please do not twist my words. I did not say nothing about him being a bad person. All right? Nowhere did I state that. I did not say that he was a horrible historian. Okay? He just only had what he only used what he could use. So yeah, there was some information that was incorrect. However, he didn't really know because at that time it was relevant to him. They didn't have all the advanced technology that they have today. All right. You know, he was only getting information based on what he researched. So there's a lot of things that has to be discovered, and there's still more information that has to be discovered. All right. Yes, and being scientific illiterate will leave our people completely vulnerable. Yes. Yes. You got to be very. I mean, you ain't gotta be a super science nerd or anything like that, but you gotta know a little bit of science. You know what I mean? So science is very important. Science plays a vital role in our lives. Science play a very important role in our world. So if we don't think that science is important, then take away everything else. Hell, as a matter of fact, I tell you what, if you don't think science is important, then guess what? You ain't gonna think philosophy is important, because guess what? Philosophy is the mother of science. Philosophy was around before science came into existence, because philosophy deals with the study of logics, beliefs, and ideologies. Oh, okay. My bad, Jerome. My bad, Jerome. Because I get attacked sometimes. So I have to make myself clear. So I didn't know you was agreeing with me. My bad. I apologize about that. But I get attacked. I get attacked by people. So I sincerely apologize for the misinformation, for misconstruing things. See, you gotta be a bigger person to apologize about stuff. You know what I'm saying? If you know you're wrong, you're wrong. You know, we all ain't perfect. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Okay, so let me show you guys something else real quick. Okay, now this come from ASHLA, which is Association for the Study of African American Life and History. So it's called Joe Augustus Rodgers Black International Journalism, Archival Research, and Black Print Culture. Okay, and it was written in 2010, summer fall, by Thabiti Ashukau. Thabiti Ashukau. So let's see what they're talking about here. Okay, it goes into his biography, his life, etc. So there's a picture of J.A. Rodgers right there in Europe. Okay, so down here, all right. So let's read the first paragraph. It says Black international journalist J.A. Rodgers' journalistic and historical writings are considered part of the tradition that social scientist Dr. St. Clair Drake referred to as vindicationist history. Rodgers dedicated his life to advancing the view that people of African descent were throughout the world history extremely influential in the building of ancient and modern civilization, which made significant contribution to human progress. Rodgers understood race as a social construction and how white racialism function to advance the interests of white in their contest with the so-called color races. However, Rodgers believed there was only one race, the human race. In surveying the totality of Rodgers' research and writing, it became clear that it was not limited to African diasporic biographies or race mixture in the ancient and modern world. Rodgers was an exceptional journalist, but is rarely given this recognition. In his journalistic reporting, Rodgers also sought to vindicate the lives and experiences of Africans and people of the African descent throughout the African diaspora. Historians V.P. Franklin and Betty Kohler Thomas argued that race journalism was an extension of African American 19th century vindicationist journalism. African American journalists and publishers in the black press often competed with the preachers and politicians for the position as the leading spokespersons for the race. However, biographies of important black politicians and journalists revealed they too engaged in race vindicationist activities. All right. Then goes down to say Rodgers' vindicationist journalism in many respects mirrors the tradition associated with the 19th Pan-Africanist Edward Whitman Blyden, whose journalistic and literary writings aim to vindicate people of African descent from the white racist charges of cultural inferiority. One of the major themes in Blyden's writings was that sub-Saharan Africans had made significant contribution to both Christianity and Islam civilization. While Blyden's intellectual and journalistic activities have been the subject of scholarly research, J.A. Rodgers' international journalism and scholarly research, especially in the 1920s and 1930s when he traveled extensively to Europe and Africa, has been overlooked. Rodgers spent most of his journalistic career working for the Pittsburgh Courier from 1923 to 1966. Rodgers' columns appeared in the Pittsburgh Courier and for a brief period simultaneously in the New York Amsterdam News and covered a wide range of social political issues concerning African American. For example, in 1926, Rodgers wrote about his experience posing as a Garveyite and interviewing John Powell and Ernest Shriver Cox, the white supremacist leaders of the Anglo-Saxon Club, and his attending the debate in the Virginia Senate over the Revision of Racial Integrity Act of 1924, which banned interracial marriage. Rodgers offered his views about black Caribbean women immigrating to the United States, his travels to lecture at historically black colleges in the South, and his support for A. Philip Randolph's Brotherhood of Sleeping Cars Porters, newly organized in 1925 after years of struggling with the owners of the nation's railroads. Rodgers also reviewed books and movies for a newspaper, and in 1923, the Amsterdam News serialized two of his three published novels, From Superman to Man and Blood Money, 1923. Okay. Yeah, it's all good, Jerome. But anyways, so as you can see, before I continue on, a lot of our people, right? They started off in, especially those who were historians, during that time period, a lot of them started off into doing writing for newspaper, doing column works and things like that. So they were of the head of their time. They started off writing for newspapers, then traveling, doing interviews, and then eventually writing books. So many of them started off being radical and being a revolutionary in that sense in their writings. That's where the philosophy comes in. So many of them were philosophical. J.A. Rodgers was philosophical. Edward Blyden was philosophical. Carl G. Woodson, W.E.B. Du Bois, Anna Julia Cooper. A lot of them were very prolific when it came to writing. James Baldwin. And they went from writing to giving speeches and organizing movements. Marcus Garvey. So many of them. They have a name for themselves. They have built themselves from that level of writing. So the art of writing, the art of speech, or the main form of speech, is writing. Writing is the main form of speech. Before you vocalize anything, before you stand on the podium and get on the microphone and speak to an audience of people, the speech starts off in the writing. But before it gets to the writing, it comes from the thoughts of the individual. It comes from the minds of the individuals. It comes from the person's experience or their perception. It comes from empirical research. But the first form of speech is writing. So there are those of us who are good at writing, and there are those of us who are good at speaking. And there are those of us who are good at doing both. All right. So if you want to check out more information, here's the source right here. It's called Joe Augustus Rodgers, Black International Journalism, Archival Research, and Black Print Culture. So that's that. All right. And then this is another book he wrote. It's called The Five Black Presidents. Okay. The five Negro presidents according to what white people said they were. 1965, J.A. Rodgers. Okay. So yeah, this is one of his works right here. Let's see, what is it about? All right, and it says in 1963, when Attorney General Kennedy and Senator Jarvis said there might be a Negro president in the next 30 or 40 years, in fact, the most outspoken of the big magazines replied there were already one, and in its February 1964 issue had an article, America's First Negro. It named Warren G. Harding as the one, and had affidavits from elderly whites who knew the Harding family. Okay, but before Harding, 3 other presidents had been loudly proclaimed by white people as being of Negro ancestry: Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, and Abraham Lincoln. All right. So that was one of his previous works. So as of today, we don't really know if it's true that Thomas Jefferson is of Negro descent, or Abraham Lincoln, or any other of the presidents had some African ancestry. We don't really know much about that, but that was the information that was given to him at the time period, and I guess that's the information that he came across, and so he wrote a book about that. All right. So let me show you guys something else if you guys want to look. Here's some more information. Joel August Rodgers, Negro historian in history, time, and space. Malik Simba, Afro-Americans in New York Life and History. Okay. So it says to fully understand the history, life, and times of George Augustus Rodgers and his contribution to anti-racist histography is to grasp how African Americans, as a racial class and caste, are prisoners of their social existence. The social existence is set within a class relationship that has a dialectic of oppression driven by domination and resistance to that domination. And it is revolutionary resistance that liberates the dominant class. The social relationship of oppression has its material basis, and that basis has its ideological manifestation. J.A. Rodgers' life spanned the period in which the material basis of white oppression was solidified between the shadow of slavery and the plantation and the civil rights movement of the 1960s. In this period, white capital kept black labor under its heel while refining the powerful ideology of white superiority and black inferiority in mass media, science, literature, theater, films, and academic scholarship. All right. So that's an old article. You can go check it out for yourself. It's on the Afro Americans in New York, Life and History. Let's see what year was that written. All right. So yeah, that's an old article right there. Okay. Let's see some. Okay, so it says, what philosophy books would you recommend for the people to start reading? Okay, so first of all, I have a book called The Big Book of Philosophy. Um, if you give me a second, hold on. All right, so I have a book right here called The Big Book of Philosophy. All right, so this book goes into different philosophical concepts, um, and goes into the origin of what philosophy is and the meaning of philosophy. So, yeah, check this book out if you haven't got a chance to. So, this is what I recommend for the people. Also, let's see. You can also look up on Amazon for different philosophical books. I'm quite sure. So I don't have too many books that deals with just the subject philosophy alone, but it's in relation to it. And when it come down to like deal with psychology stuff, I know it's a little off topic. You can also look at the Association of Black Psychologists book, which goes into list of outlines. You can also look at Dr. Amos Wilson book because he himself is, although he was a psychologist, but he was very philosophical too as well. Dr. Naeem Akbar. So yeah, but to mainly, if you want to focus on the subject of philosophy in itself, I recommend this book right here. Okay, and let's see what other list of books that I can find. All right, let me see what books can I find that deals with philosophy. Also, you guys can look up books on dealing with Plato and Aristotle as well. Um, Let's go look up African philosophy. Okay. Hold on. Okay, so here's a book right here. I'm on the Amazon website. All right, it's called the African Philosophy Book. Um, it's the second edition, and the price is $62. So yeah, you got the African Philosophy Book. You got African Philosophy, the Essential Reading, right here, which is $16.95. Um, let's see what else I can find for you. Let's see if I can find something in my archive. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm waiting. All right, so you can check out the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. Okay, this is the PDF right here. All right, and then here's another one called Introduction to Africana Philosophy, which deals with philosophy in the African diaspora. And I used that in my previous presentation that I did before. Okay, so and then here's another one called the A Companion to African American Philosophy. All right. So that's just a few, but let me show one more, and then after that I'm done. Oh, I got one. Right here. All right. So here's another one. It's called A History of Philosophy. All right. Medieval Philosophy, Volume 2. So you guys can check this out for yourself as well. All right. Yep. So that's it. Yep. So that's it. Anyways, that concludes today's topic by J.A. Rodgers. So, with that being the case, may peace and power elevation be to all of you. And I will reconnect with you guys later. So, please be safe out there. And until next time, take it easy on yourselves. Deuces. All right. Thank you. The great ideas of philosophy from the great courses. Okay. Sounds cool. All right. Y'all take it easy. Peace.